okay with this on? Today we're going to be setting up for manual chemistry total protein. The package insert or procedure for the Bio-Ret reagent will give us the information we need to complete a lot of the preliminary on our worksheet. The manual procedure is what we're actually going to be performing today. We're going to label all of our tubes and then a pipette 1 ml of our working reagent, which is our total protein Bio-Ret, into every tube. At that point, you want to stop and verify volume and color. Then we will be adding the appropriate volume for all of our samples, which for total protein is 20 microliters, into each of those tubes. Immediately after we add them all, then we want to mix them and place them in the proper incubation temperature. For this procedure, it is going to be at room temperature. Set a clock for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, we're ready to go to the spectrophotometer and dial in our wavelength of 520 and begin reading our absorbances. One thing I want to note is under the stability, I have 60 minutes after the incubation period, so I have plenty of time to work with this specimen. You're going to need your tubes and marker, and as we learned in lab technique, label in the same direction up at the top. So I'm going to need a blank, in my first test tube rack hole. Then I'm going to need a standard, QC1, QC2, and then for my patient, I will need 2 tubes for each patient. I am not demonstrating patient today, so we're doing the very, very basics, only running our standard and drawing the curve and reading our QCs. But your patients are always ran in duplicate. My instructions said 1 ml, so I want to make sure that my pipette is dialed at the appropriate volume. Total protein reagent. Always, always mix your reagent well. Everything that you're ever going to open, just make that routine habit. Don't want to create foaming. I should be looking at the reagent that it is according to the package insert, the appropriate color, and it does not have any extra particles or discoloration in it. Cap inside up so I don't contaminate it. Now I'm going to pipette the 1 ml into all tubes. Be sure to hold your pipette straight up and down. Don't angle it. Always recap when you're finished. I'm finished with that pipetter, and you notice I used the same tip all the way through. I was going into the same vial, into clean test tubes. At this point, let me move these over so you can see them all. I want to verify they look the same volume and they're all the same light blue color for total protein. So I believe my pipetting was accurate. Now the next step is, according to what the tube is labeled, you're going to put 20 microliters of sample in it. So I need to adjust my pipette accordingly. This time, I'm always going to have a fresh tip because I'm going into different materials. The blank has absolutely no sample in it. It is only reagent. The next tube is my standard. So our standards are labeled into these small red-capped aliquots. Be sure to read the label that it is what you are testing. This is a total protein standard. There again, you want to mix. There's not very much in these containers, so if I invert it, a lot of it's going to be sticking on the sides. So I recommend that you gently swirl. "20 microliters into my standard. I do not have very much volume then. I'm going to show you how I want you to go closer to the liquid because the 20 microliters, if I pipette way up here, it might not get mixed into my reagent. So I'm going to dispense it close to the surface. That tip is being discarded. First QC, 20 microliters. QC1. Second QC. QC2. Then I want to mix all tubes, okay? Depending on what you want to do, the standard obviously, the blank obviously does not need to be mixed. It's only reagent. Standard, and you can actually see some of that purple beginning to react, but it's not been mixed. I can mix it at the bench with the flicking vortex that we talked about, or I could go over to the vortex and apply each tube. Maybe. Yeah, okay, are you going to go? Maybe not. It's coming. Maybe you need to warm this up. It's still not quite up there. There we go. You're getting a good vortex, okay? So especially if you have very many tubes, you might want to just walk your rack over to the vortex. There, finally. Okay. Okay, I want to set my clock, which I should have had out. According to the package insert, it was for 5 minutes at room temperature. So I will wait 5 minutes. And once the 5 minutes is up, I am ready to go to the spectrophotometer and begin my reading at that point.